Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. So, I've hosted quite a few of our webinars, and it's always the most interesting in the beginning to see where our attendees are located. I see a few of you have already put in the chat where you are currently, but while we await a few more attendees to join, go ahead and put in the chat where you are joining from. Just to allow everyone a chance to join in, we will get started in about 1 to 2 minutes. Also, we have Texas, I see Egypt, I see Switzerland. So we have some global attendees. All right, I see a lot. India, I see a fellow Georgian. All right. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, right? Depending on where you are. Welcome to today's webinar hosted by the Accreditation Council for Medical Affairs. Thanks for joining us. For those of you that are joining us for the first time, welcome in. And for those of you who joined us previously and joining us again today, welcome back. My name is Kiana Dixson. I am a pharmacist by background and the current Associate Director of Educational Programs here at the ACMA. This afternoon, we are joined by recruiting experts, Green Key Resources, to discuss insights and tips on how to ace that medical affairs interview. From Green Key Resources, we have Cheryl Chasen and Lisa Reissman. As the webinar progresses, if you have any questions for the speakers, please leave them in the comment section as you have them, and we will address all of those and answer them in the second half of today's webinar. This first half of the webinar will allow Lisa and Cheryl to give their insights and their expertise. But now I will now open the floor to both of them and allow them to begin sharing their expertise on medical affairs interviews and give you your tips.
Hello, everyone. Imagine you're about to interview for your dream job. How do you prepare? How do you set yourself apart? What do I need to know? I'm Cheryl Chasen, partner at Green Key Resources and a pharma recruiting expert. My team and I have helped thousands of candidates ace their interview.
I joined the pharma team at Green Key almost 2 years ago. I love helping candidates change their lives and land dream jobs. I'm Lisa Reissman, and today we're going to help you with interview tips and tricks.
So here's a brief history of the pharma team. We established in 2009, and we currently have now, I think, 40 plus recruiters who specialize in various areas. We recruit nationally. We also recruit for both contract and permanent positions. Here are several positions within medical affairs that exist in the pharmaceutical industry. And I'm not going to read those off. You guys can see them. But I will tell you a little bit about what we're seeing in the market right now, as I'm sure everyone's pretty curious in the job market. So COVID hiring, things were off the charts. There were tons of positions, tons of opportunities. We'd have like 4 or 5, 6 positions to submit candidates to. Titles and salaries were inflated. The past 2 years, not so much. We have seen a major slowdown with a lot less hiring. The job market is experiencing a situation where there are fewer positions are available, but there's an influx of highly qualified candidates. So there's a lot more competition. We're starting, so for the first month of 2024, we're seeing a little bit more jobs come in.
Now we're going to get into some interview tips and tricks. I'm going to talk to you about video interview tips specifically. Obvious things you know: be on time, test your link, test your mic, dress professionally, and always have a good, solid, clean background. The most common mistake that people make is not connecting with others on the screen. It's important to make eye contact. Use your screen. Use your body language. Lean in so that they know that you're paying attention. Use your voice. Use some inflection. If you speak a little louder sometimes and maybe a little softer at other times, that's going to highlight what you're saying. The power of the pause can take you a long way. When people pause, everyone wants to know what they're going to say next. Most importantly, do not be monotone. It's a proven scientific fact that when you use your hands to speak in the right way, and you speak in 2 dimensions, or you add a 3rd dimension and use your body and your space, your brain can picture what is being said on a different level. I'm going to give you an example. If I say this sentence in a monotone voice with no body language or voice modulation, see how it sounds. In my previous position, I was a market access analyst. I worked on 5 product launches across phases 2 and 3. Now, if I say it like this, in my previous position, I was a market access analyst. I worked on 5 product launches across 2 and 3, phases 2 and 3. Did you see a difference and hear the difference? You have to engage your interviewers. Be yourself, but always use your tools and act and speak like you're in the room with them. It will help you stand out.
Lisa, thank you for the reminder. I don't want to sound monotone, so I'm going to try to pick that up a little bit, and I will make sure I pause because I have a feeling I am speaking way too fast, so I appreciate it. Here are some common interview questions and behavioral questions that are more general, and it's important to go over this before your interview. I hope you guys memorize those questions. Don't worry, we'll send them out afterwards, so you'll be okay. Okay, so this is some of the interviewing tips and best practices that we use. I've been recruiting for 20 years. So within those 20 years, I've prepped people and gotten feedback from plenty of candidates and hiring managers. So with that and my team, we gathered information and kind of came up with some prepping that we thought would help. Okay, so you want to make sure that you research the company that you're interviewing for. You want to know their pipeline. You want to know the products. You would be very surprised how many people go into the interview and we hear feedback that the person knew nothing about the company, and that was a red flag, and they would pass just on that. And also, it's important to look up all the people that you're interviewing with. You normally get an interview schedule, so you're going to want to look up the people on LinkedIn. You also want to make sure that you know the company well and why you want to work there. So some people will give answers that they want to, they'll be like, why are you interested in this job? And they'll say, I want more money, or I want a higher title. But you really, you can say, if you do your research on the company and there are things about the company or that group that interest you, that's when you want to talk about at that time. And it also does show that you're interested in the position. You never want to say anything bad about your current job or company. That will reflect very poorly on you. If there are reasons, that are justified, and you can tell your recruiter this, like, I left this job because of so-and-so, you can say something bad then, but then we'll help you when the interview comes to think of another way to spin it of why you're looking. You also never want to answer a question with just yes or no. You only get a short amount of time to interview and showcase your skills. So when you are asked a question, you want to make sure that you give specific examples. Try to be short and to the point. You don't want to ramble on and talk too much. And when we're prepping you for an interview, if we find that you are rambling in a very nice way, we'll tell you that you want to keep it short and you want to listen more. And, you want to make sure that you can just, be aware of it so you're not over talking. If you haven't done something, if there's something they ask you and you haven't done it before, say, no, I haven't done that before, but I've done this and this is similar. So it's better to say something similar than saying no, but you can be no. I mean, say no because you want to be honest with them. So, but just if you can think of something that you've done similar, it's even a better way to answer it. Be prepared to talk about specific accomplishments. You always want to maintain a positive attitude. I know sometimes during an interview, it's frustrating. You may not answer a question correctly. You may have not had a good conversation with one of the people you interviewed with. It's hard to stay positive, but do whatever you can, not to let that ruin the entire interview, because you could turn things around and maybe what you did wasn't so bad. You also want to make sure everything is about them. Portray yourself as the answer to their challenge. This is how I'm going to help you. Make sure you prepare to answer technical questions. You can find, your recruiter may be able to help you on some questions that may be asked, or you can find some things online. Make sure you know your resume and you have it in front of you during an interview. There are many times that we hear feedback from the hiring managers that people, they ask questions off the resume and the candidate can't answer them. And as a result, they were passed on. They're also going to ask you why you're interested in this position. They want to hear, I'm interested because of certain, either the position, like certain things that you will be doing in the position, or things about the company that you really like, or, there are people there that that you've read about that you want to work for. So you want to try, because then again, they're showing that you did your research on the company and that shows that you're interested. Never ask about salary. I know you want to know, and your recruiter usually has some sort of, idea of what the salary range is, unless they ask you, which sometimes they will, what are you looking for? But otherwise, do not ask about it, because then they think that you're only money motivated. Have questions ready. And remember that you're also interviewing them too. I think a lot of people forget that. They're really, they're so concerned and worried about impressing and doing the right thing, but they're not thinking, wait, is this a job that I really want? So you want to, you have to make sure that you're mindful of that. Send a thank you note to everyone you met with. You don't need to do it after the phone screen, but if you have a panel interview, people are taking their time to meet with you. So it's important that you acknowledge that and thank them for their time. And then you could also, it's an opportunity to maybe ask a question or, talk about something you really enjoyed and let them know your interest level. Be yourself and answer questions honestly. I always tell my candidates, if they're preparing, they're nervous. I'm like, if you're yourself and you can look back on the interview and say, there's nothing you could have done differently because you were yourself and you answered the questions honestly. It just wasn't a good fit if it doesn't work out. Or they may have had other candidates. There are many reasons of why it couldn't have worked out. Do not apply to numerous positions within a single company at one time. I'll hear this, that candidates will just apply to a bunch of different roles at the same time at one company. The company on the other end, they'll say this person applied like 10 times, we're passing. So you want to, you can't qualify for all those positions, and they got your resume the first time, most likely. Do not accept a counter offer. This is a tough one. I think we always say to our candidates that a counter offer, if they were going to give you that, they should have given you that offer when you didn't have to tell them you were leaving. And then it's always in their mind that you're thinking about leaving. So I think it's kind of dangerous to take a counter offer. If you interview and do not receive an offer, it's really helpful if you can get feedback. If you're working with a recruiter, it's easier to get feedback because they could, and trust me, there are times that we can't get feedback, and we try to get specific feedback and they'll just say they're passing. But the feedback is really helpful. And no matter what it is, we try to relay it to our candidates because it's constructive criticism, and our goal is to help you get a job. So whatever it takes, it's important that you know what the feedback was. And sometimes it's not negative. They just have another candidate that they're moving forward with. There's all different reasons, but whatever it is, it's always helpful to know. So you're not always wondering, and it can help you improve your skills. And just one thing I wanted to add, a lot of people are still interested in fully remote work. We're finding that a lot of our clients are now moving to hybrid. We do have some remote roles still at biotech and pharmaceutical companies, but most of them remain with CROs. I'm not sponsoring, by the way. I should have covered that. Okay, maybe I should have. Okay, these are medical affairs specific skills. These are skills that, there's so many medical affairs positions, so we tried to find some common things that are across all the medical affairs roles, and things that you should emphasize on during your interview. So communications. Demonstrate your ability to communicate clearly, confidently, verbally, and in writing. Working with cross-functional teams. Highlight your ability to work collaboratively. Problem-solving skills. Provide examples, especially in addressing medical and scientific challenges. Therapeutic area specific. So if they are looking for a certain therapeutic area, and sometimes I would say there are times when you have to have that therapeutic area. And if you don't have that experience in that therapeutic area, most likely they're going to not want to. It depends on the company. They may not want to talk to you. And sometimes you have that therapeutic area, but it's from like 10 years ago. Unfortunately, that wouldn't help you. But if you do have that specific therapeutic area for that position, you want to make sure you're well versed in the recent developments, treatment guidelines, and challenges. Regulatory processes. Be prepared to discuss your understanding and compliance within the pharma industry. Communicate scientific and medical information, as well as your experience interacting with key stakeholders. And then highlight your education, especially if you have a relevant degree. A lot of times we recommend that people put their degrees on the top of their resume if you have that advanced degree that they're looking for, or if you have a certification. Certification in medical affairs will also strengthen your candidacy. So it's really important to just keep learning, and that will, set yourself apart from other candidates that may not have that certification, because if you want to get that degree, it may take a little bit longer. So you always want to continue to learn and continue to broaden your skills. So as we delve into the importance of board certification in medical affairs, it's worth noting that the BCMAS certification not only validate proficiency in critical skills such as effective cross-functional collaboration. Lisa, you're in my head to keep slowing it down. Regulatory affairs and scientific information dissemination, all discussed here, but also serves as a powerful differentiator, significantly enhancing your standing in job applications and interviews. I will pass it along to Dr. Kiana Dixson to explore with you more on how achieving BCMAS can uniquely position you for success in the competitive landscape of medical affairs roles.
Sorry, I was on mute there. Thanks, Cheryl. Now, as we move forward, let's explore how attaining board certification in medical affairs can elevate your professional identity. Right here, we see BCMAS. This is the Board Certified Medical Affairs Specialist credential. One notable aspect is the ability to include this credential after your last name. Right, so this showcases your expertise in medical affairs directly. This not only adds a distinguished touch to your LinkedIn profile, but it also provides a powerful statement in your resumes and your CVs. Establishing your BCMAS designation across these platforms serves as this testament to your expertise, but also your proficiency in the field, right? Setting you apart in the eyes of prospective employers. They are looking for candidates with expertise. They are looking for candidates with the initiative to become an expert in this field. You have to make yourself an expert. Sorry, you can go to the next slide. So, how can you begin to stand out on your applications? How do you become board certified? Our speakers, they mentioned that competition right now is very high. It's important to distinguish yourself now. Whenever you're ready to enroll, there is no lag time with the BCMAS program. You can begin studying immediately. And that's because the program is all online. You can become board certified on your own time. When you enroll, you have 6 months to complete the entire program. There are no lectures you have to attend. All of the preparatory material that we provide is full of interactive content to keep you engaged throughout the program. I mentioned that there are 20 modules in this preparatory content that we provide. On average, there are about 40 hours of content. But again, you have 6 months to complete that entire 40 hours. We also provide additional resources throughout the program that you may need in your role as a medical affairs professional. We give you and provide case studies so you can actually apply the content that you learn throughout the program to real life examples. We also provide downloadable resources like example templates, example worksheets that you made. We also provide knowledge checks throughout the content as well, all to prepare you for that final board exam at the end. You also see a phone here on your screen. That's because in addition to the program existing all online, you can also access the program from your mobile device. So no matter where you are, if you need that flexibility and that opportunity to complete the program at your own time, or if you don't have Wi-Fi, you have that option. You can access the program on a mobile device, on a tablet, or your desktop. You can go to the next slide here. All right, so we've discussed how BCMAS helps you stand out from the outside looking in as an expert in medical affairs. And BCMAS also opens the door to access of industry leaders, right? We have here, sometimes it's who you know, right? And it is. Imagine if that person that you know also BCMAS certified, right? When you become certified, you join this community, right? Virtually as well, right? In our social media groups to network, and you can connect with BCMAS professionals that are already within the industry. BCMAS has been a standard within the industry for almost a decade now, about 10 years now. So you can find BCMAS professionals across multiple therapeutic areas, across multiple pharma organizations and their sizes, whether they are small, medium, or large. You can find a BCMAS professional in those two sectors of the industry as well. Now, on our next slide, we have a bit of data on the impact of BCMAS. The ACMA, we surveyed both internal and external stakeholders to better understand the value that they see in accreditation and certification of medical affairs professionals. As we can see here on our screen, 87% of the opinion leaders indicated that board certified medical science liaisons are seen as more credible, as more trustworthy, as more competent than those MSL counterparts that are not board certified. Additionally, when we surveyed science professionals, right, they mentioned medical affairs is highly regulated. We adhere to specific regulations strictly. We wanted to survey BCMAS among compliance professionals, and we found that between 70 and 73% of these professionals indicating that accrediting and certifying medical affairs professionals would help to minimize risk and also improve a medical affairs team's level of compliance as well. Go to the next slide. Now, here is an overview of all of the topics, all of the modules that are covered in the BCMAS certification. Again, there are only 20 modules within the BCMAS program. What you are seeing here are more in-depth titles, right, that are included within the BCMAS program. As you can see, it is quite comprehensive. There are a lot of words here on the screen. You will have access to this slide deck after the webinar, so you can take a deeper dive into what you find here. Right. Cheryl mentioned that some of those skills that are required to succeed in medical affairs or to succeed in interviews, they are actually listed here. Right. She mentioned communication skills. Communication skills are key, whether they are verbal or nonverbal, and we cover those in depth. In medical affairs roles, no matter which role you are in, especially medical science liaisons, many times you will have to provide or give a presentation. This also covered in BCMAS. Right? We discussed also that working cross-functionally is very important. Remember that medical affairs isn't one role or one specific title. It's really an umbrella term of multiple job functions and different titles, spanning across medical information, medical communication, medical science liaisons, right? And in BCMAS, what we do is go over all of those different roles within medical affairs, all of those different roles underneath that medical affairs umbrella. So you get the inside scoop, if you will, of the ins and outs of each role. When you have that perspective of what one team does on a day-to-day, you have a better understanding of how to work with, how to communicate with them, right? So that you can enhance your cross-functional skills as well. On the next slide, we have a testimonial. This is Dr. Chelsea Ayudi, and here she discusses her experience working with the ACMA and how positive and easy it was for her to gain her BCMAS certification. Here she's highlighting how BCMAS was used for her own professional development and that this was an investment into expanding her knowledge base in medical affairs. She also explains how it helped her to set herself apart in an interview. Now, we have a full interview with Dr. Ayudi on our website. That's medicalaffairsspecialist.org as a blog post. So go ahead and check that out and gain more insights on specifically how Chelsea broke into the industry and how she used BCMAS to build up her expertise. For additional resources, you can also visit the YouTube channel Beyond the Pill with Dr. Will. It's actually a podcast with our founder and our CEO. He gives great insights for medical affairs and MSL professionals on that podcast. I think it will be a great resource for you. If you're present on TikTok, he is also there. You can find him there with those short videos as well with some insights. His TikTok is Will Solomon. All right, now that includes the webinar portion or the presentation portion of today's webinar. We really wanted this webinar to be very interactive and answer any questions that you have. So let's now take a look at the questions that came in from the chat. I see Cheryl and Lisa are back. And we'll go ahead and hop into the questions that you have. All right. Does the ACMA have resources or pathways to connect prospects with recruiters? Yes, we do. We try to provide as much help or assistance that we can if you are trying to the medical affairs space. So after you complete the BCMAS program, we do have resources such as recruiters that we can connect you with. Like I mentioned before, you also join a community on our social media platforms, whether that's on LinkedIn, where you can join our closed network. and connect and network with other BCMAS professionals in medical affairs as well.
Okay, I can take this one. I recently had an interview where I asked, oh, should I read the question?
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll read the question. I recently had an interview where I was asked what the pay salary I was looking for, and I gave them a range, but I was open-minded when it came to this question. So yeah, they will ask you. Either talent, most likely talent will ask you, and you could give a range, because then you don't know the tricky part about saying just giving just one number is that you may be doing yourself a disservice, because maybe the salary pays more. Or I think that it's good to give a range, but you also, if you're more comfortable, you could just tell them this is what I'm looking for. And sometimes it may be higher than the range the recruiter gave you, or that you may be higher than, because now they post salary ranges. And if it is, it doesn't mean it's going to hurt you. They'll just, if they can't pay you that, then they'll just say, do you have any flexibility? And they'll work with you. You're not going to lose the offer because you ask for more money.
In terms of medical affairs specific skills, working with cross-functional teams, question that pops up often is, how will you position the medical affairs department versus sales? I find this a tough one. Any tips? How will you position? I'm not sure. Is this clear to you, Cheryl or Lisa?
I would just say medical affairs department, you want to be specific to the job. That's a pretty broad category. So depending on what your job is within the medical affairs department versus sales, which also covers a wide array of jobs, sales, marketing, if you're business development. So if you want to be more specific, maybe we can answer.
Okay. Hi, Cheryl and Lisa. Do you work with candidates that are pivoting to the medical affairs from finance? So there's a possibility, if you have industry experience, and when you say finance, you want to stay within the industry, then there's a possibility. A lot of times, I don't know if this can help you or not, but a lot of times companies will not pay agencies unless someone has industry experience. But that being said, we'll speak to all candidates and try to give them advice, because everyone's like, well, how do I get industry experience? So we may be able to guide you in that way. But I don't think as an agency recruiter, we'll be able to help you with that in our particular group. We do have a finance group, but they may be looking for finance experience.
Question for a second now. For the medical affairs specific skills, are some of these more important than others? I heard mixed information about presenting skills being prioritized in some cases, but others have said relationship building is prioritized. I can hop in here before Lisa and Cheryl really quick. Now, when it comes to what those are prioritized, like I mentioned, medical affairs is an umbrella term. I think that this may depend, one, on the role that you are searching for, that you are utilizing for medical affairs. Now, if you're an MSL, for example, both of these are important. Versus if you are in medical information, you may not have relationship building be a priority for you as such an MSL would. So I think this would be more position specific.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. It depends what position you're interviewing for. I think we were saying more general skills that are looked across the board for medical affairs positions, but some positions, different skills are more important than others. And during the interview, you just want to give examples of when you use those skills.
A tip sheet on top questions asked will be useful. Yeah, so after the webinar, again, the slide deck will be shared with you. It's on our website that you're able to download. And so you will be able to access all the questions that they shared today on this afternoon's webinar directly in that slide deck.
In one of the slides is common questions and also behavioral situational questions. So you'll be able to see that.
What would be a good approach for someone with little to no experience trying to break into the field?
Certification is what we would recommend that. And I think it's hard. Like I said, you can definitely break in, but it's harder for a recruiter to do that for you. It's something you can do on your own. And I think just networking, getting yourself on LinkedIn, networking with people, and just educating yourself, continue to educate yourself and getting the certification. And if you're and just keeping your eyes open on LinkedIn, and there could be positions, there will be at some point will be positions that are looking for people who are more entry level.
I started the BCMAS course nearly 3 months ago. How can I get a mentor and prepare my future applications, given that I don't yet have any experience and that several vacancies require a certain amount of experience? So all of the information on how to request for a mentor is on our website. So it's not in the BCMAS program itself. It's on our website on who to reach out to. If anything, you can email us at info, I-N-F-O, at acmainfo.org for more information. Now, you will request for a mentor after you complete the BCMAS program. In today's job market, how likely is it to get a job in a therapeutic area that's different from your past experience?
So it all depends on the company. So sometimes the hiring manager, sorry, not even the company, it's the hiring manager normally. Sometimes the hiring manager feels it's really important and they're only going to look at candidates from that specific therapeutic area. But there are plenty of times that the hiring manager is more focused on the other qualifications for the role, and the therapeutic area doesn't matter.
Is the program open to international candidates? Does one have to be licensed in any state of the US to become a BCMAS? No, you do not. We have multiple international versions of BCMAS. Within the pharmaceutical industry, the regulations, like we discussed regulatory affairs, changes or is different depending on where you are located, right? While we discuss the FDA here in the US, over in Europe or UK, they do not follow FDA guidelines, right? They have their own regulatory body. Now in BCMAS, we have multiple international versions related to your region that you are in. So if you have any questions on which region you'd like to enroll in, when you enroll, you have all of the options, right? We have BCMAS Europe, we have the MENA region, we have Canada, we have Latin America. So just check out our international regions that we do offer so you can have region-specific content in your BCMAS. I have a PharmD and I do BCMAS, but with little to no prior experience. What are the chances of being hired?
Okay, I would say it depends, again, what positions you're applying to. There are positions out there that will say PharmD and 0 to 2 years experience. So just a matter, but if you're going to, I wouldn't bother applying to roles that say you need industry experience. I think it's going to be hard, but you will find positions out there. So your chances are good.
Positive.
About the communication, is there a continuing education program specifically focused on enhancing communication skills, particularly in the context of public speaking?
Lisa?
No, they're asking in your program or just in general. There's tons of public speaking courses out there. I don't know if there are a lot. You should search the internet, LinkedIn. There's live classes, there's virtual classes, there are LinkedIn groups for it. There's a lot of ways to get public speaking skills.
Yes. Regarding BCMAS, you said that one needs to complete the required modules and exams within a 6-month time frame. If you don't succeed on your initial attempt, are there opportunities for a retest? Yes. So included in your investment are 4 attempts at that final exam. Now we have data that shows about 91% of our learners, they pass our certification exams on the very first try. So we do provide that preparatory content to prepare you and give you example question banks, but you do have 4 attempts at that final exam. Where are all of the items noted in the curriculum? I am enrolled in BCMAS and will be taking my final exam soon. I have not seen anything about obtaining a mentor. Again, all of the mentor information is on our website on how to attain a mentor there. Good luck on your final exam.
Yeah, good luck. 91
Okay,
pass.
do we have to handwrite and overnight thank you letters, or emails acceptable? Emails are acceptable. This is a different time, and they're not expecting you to do send a letter. So you don't need to do it again. A reminder that it doesn't have to be after the first phone screen, but then afterwards to whoever you met with. You should send one, not in one email. You should individually send one to each person. And if you can't get their email address, just ask either the recruiter or talent. And sometimes talent will just, will take your thank you email and they'll send it and they'll pass it on to whoever you met with.
I started as a medical affairs manager for 2 years. After that, 5 years experience as a senior MSL. Now all I get are offers for MSL. How can I demonstrate my ability as a medical manager and get a medical manager position? Good question.
So so it depends. If your title, does your title say manager in it? If it's not part of your official title, in parentheses, you could put manager. In your resume, you want to put in there like a bullet point mentioning about direct reports, your 2 years experience of direct reports, and how many direct reports that you've had. If you're working with a recruiter, they'll make sure to highlight that information and let them know that you're looking to manage people.
I'm currently a PharmD intern, not graduated yet. Am I eligible to take BCMAS certification, or do I have to wait until I graduate? You do have to wait until you graduate. Now, the eligibility requirements for BCMAS are a terminal doctorate level degree, so PharmD, MD, or PhD. If you do not have those degree requirements, we also have an eligibility requirement where you have 2 years of life sciences experience. You are also eligible for BCMAS. How would you position medical affairs in terms of strategy versus sales?
Again, I think this depends on what area of medical affairs, what position. There's a lot of positions within medical affairs, right? So strategy versus sales would be dependent upon what your position is. An overall strategy would be different than selling.
Yeah, and also medical directors don't, you can talk about your business development. But yeah, I think, they're asking how would you position medical affairs in terms, so I don't know. I think that you could just really talk about each one separately and your experience with each one. I'm not sure I really understand the question. I don't know.
Yeah, well, strategy would be what's your vision? How are you going to obtain your goals? And what's the strategy, I guess, as the medical director for the team and the product you're on, versus sales being directly business development.
I think that's a good point. Yeah, I can hop in here as well. I think from my perspective, my take on the question is you could really position them based on what those goals are, right? What are those outcomes and how are they defined, right? Your KPIs. Your KPIs for medical affairs would be completely different than your KPIs for a sales role, for example, right? Sales is sales focused. They're looking at dollar signs. They are looking at prescription numbers. It's completely different for medical affairs. Can I shift from clinical research as a CRA to medical affairs like HEOR?
So I think the best way to do that is doing it if you're already working for a company as a CRA, maybe talk to, the head, like medical affairs, and tell them that you're interested in the HEOR positions. They know you, especially if you're doing a really good job. That I've seen people transition that way. But to make the transition without the experience would be more difficult to start all over at a new company. If you start like just applying to HEOR positions, you're probably not going to get a lot of feedback if all your experience was as a CRA.
How long is the average job search for clinical development directors?
So is this, I don't know if that is including MDs, but I guess it would kind of be the same, or PhDs for clinical development. But I would say the average for those take a little bit, those higher level MD roles take a little bit longer. So maybe like a month to 2 months.
Yes, I see this is Lisa's response, but I have a lot of people asking how they can connect to Lisa and Cheryl. Again, like she mentioned here, their LinkedIn. Also search Genki resources.
I could post our last names in the chat again if anybody wants.
I have 2 years experience as an MSL. Sorry, how can I assess myself to get the promotion to medical advisor? Here, what I would recommend is really, search medical advisor on LinkedIn jobs and figure out what they are looking for. What is their role when they are fulfilling a role for medical advisor, and compare it to your current role as an MSL, and then fill in those gaps. Identify what expertise or what skills you are lacking in order to satisfy and fulfill that medical advisor role. If you are the hiring manager, what do you look out for in a candidate?
Someone who could work independently. I mean, depending on what the level, the hiring manager's normally very busy and don't have a lot of time to train. So it's good to highlight that you can work independently, but you also work, and they want to make sure someone works really well in a team. And so I feel like those are definitely top things. I think obviously they want to make sure you can do the job and that everything on your resume holds true when they interview you, and you're upfront about the skills that you don't have. But I think, team player, working independently, they also, I would say, something that they don't like is someone that job hops a lot. So they like to see that you've been at a job for a little while, maybe like at least 3 years. Sometimes 2 years will be okay. But if you're hopping at jobs every 2 years, they're going to question, will this person come here and just leave?
How about transitioning from clinical practice to medical affairs for an MD? What advice do you have?
So we've seen that a lot. It just depends on what position's posted. So you may be able to get at a position for an associate director, medical director.
If you have experience in the therapeutic area specifically, like oncology or something, it might be an easier transition.
Is BCMAS seen as a standard now? I see some jobs ask for it. Yes. So like I mentioned before, BCMAS has been around for a decade now. You will find leaders within the industry with BCMAS. So your BCMAS counterparts also are in the industry. They are already experienced leaders in the industry as well. Does transferable skills count in medical affairs hiring? I'd say here is more so how you demonstrate those transferable skills, right? How to know that they are transferable to that role if you haven't highlighted how they are transferable, right? You can speak to those transferable skills in interviews, but you also have to demonstrate and show that in your resume, your CV, in order to get that interview and talk about those transferable skills. I know that part of the interview is doing a presentation. Can ACMA do another webinar whereby a sample clinical presentation is done for us entry-level MSLs to learn from, or just provide what should be in the presentation and best presentation tips? This is something I can discuss, take back with ACMA if that's something we'd like to provide. Again, this is covered in our BCMAS program. When you enroll in BCMAS, we cover those skill sets that you need, such as presentation skills. We go over the technical side of presentations as well, right? What your slides should look like, how they should be created and developed, and also how they should be developed. So this is already all in our BCMAS program. You
Okay,
mentioned earlier.
You go ahead. You want to read it?
You mentioned earlier that it's not good to apply for multiple positions within a company. What if the roles are similar, different titles, and you are very interested in that particular company?
So that's what I was saying. You don't want to, if you're very interested in the company, you don't want to apply to, even if it's different titles, same titles. I mean, you could do it, I guess, if it's 2 positions, you can, but if they start seeing your resume then a lot and just applying, then I would say that it might, it might reflect poorly on you. But if it's similar titles and there's similar roles and positions, then I think that's okay. One thing I do want to mention, if you want to use an agency recruiter, if you've already applied to a position at a company, then the agency probably can't represent you for 6 months.
So be careful where you blast your resume out.
Okay.
If you've been laid off for a few months and you have a gap resume, does that impact you negatively when you apply? How long a gap can be acceptable?
Okay, so it depends. That's a good question. And it really depends how long and what your reasoning is. Sometimes it's a non-issue. They had to go take care of a sick parent. They just wanted time off. They haven't taken a break. So as long as if it's 5 years, then I'd say that may be tough, maybe even 4, maybe 3. I'd say like 1 to 2, maybe, maybe okay. Again, it all depends on what your reason is.
They said a few months, just for a few months. A few months is okay.
Yeah.
Because a lot of
few months is okay, definitely.
Packages, and they know that, some people can't immediately look for a new job. So a few months is okay.
Absolutely.
What's your opinion on having BCMAS on your resume?
Certifications are great.
It sets you apart with someone. If you're being considered for a job and it's like they're considering 2 people and they can't decide, that's like one thing. If one of you have it, they'll end up going with, that sets you apart.
Oh yeah, so we're now at our closing time. I see we had a very interactive, cute question and answer section. Thank you to all of our attendees this afternoon or morning, evening, depending on where you are. Thank you to Lisa. Thank you to Cheryl for joining us and giving their insights. Again, I think this was very productive for myself as well as for everyone else that attended today. Again, if you have any questions for Cheryl or Lisa, they are on LinkedIn. Search Green Key Resources, as well as myself. ACMA, our website is medicalaffairsspecialist.org. You can find more information on the BCMAS certification there as well.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone, for joining. We appreciate it.